All right, so from there, I think the next interesting thing to talk about is probably the fermentation. And I know you guys are doing some interesting things there. Do you want to go through that? Because I know people have been asking these questions and I haven't given you answers yet, so these guys are going to be better at it.
So on the fermentation side, we actually do a fairly long fermentation starting out. So in our industry, 3 days is...
I was just going to say, long for distilling...
Not for brewing.
Yeah.
And definitely not if you're making mead.
So, yeah.
So now we do a 7-day fermentation. And so the actual probably fermentation part of that is probably done around 4 days.
Okay.
So we get a little bit, just a hint of kind of malolactic vibe on the backside. Normally we wait until the pH just starts coming up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and that's normally 7 days, and so then we'll distill it after that. But
and the yeast you're using is really interesting too.
Yeah, so we use a couple of yeasts. The one we primarily use is called M1.
Okay.
Supposedly the M stands for Macallan. It's an old school Scotch strain that is occasionally used in the Caribbean for rum production.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking some funky esters.
Depending on your conditions, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The warmer the conditions, the funkier it gets. So
excellent.
Again, when we go back to the barrel room, we'll pull you some of the funky examples.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Are we talking funky, kind of heading towards Hogo rum, or funky tropical rum?
Closer to tropical, but
yeah, right. So you're not getting the meaty, you're not getting the funk.
We do occasionally get that, but it actually comes off more, we say like blue cheesy kind of. So we actually, because we come a little bit more from the brandy side, we actually refer to it more as some of those notes you get in a really good old Armagnac.
Rancia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sort of between blue cheese and Parmesan, heading towards just like kimchi or like all the weird fermented
you
foods.
can get some really fun, funky things. So
there was that one barrel in the back I named it Asian Restaurant because when I put it up to my nose, it smelled like every Asian restaurant I'd ever been in put together.
Oh, right, smashed together. Yeah,
like bamboo notes and all sorts of stuff. It was
that's cool. Yeah,
weird.
Okay, so and you're happy to push that. You also said that we talked about diacetyl a little earlier on, which is really interesting because once again, this is something that people have been asking for, and I haven't been able to side by side test it myself yet. I'm lazy. You guys have, so do you want to give us your thoughts on that?
Yes, so one of the reasons we do that little bit longer fermentation, other than getting that slight bit of malolactic, was we also want to give that yeast plenty of time to take back up that diacetyl that was produced during fermentation, especially since we're using some of these are 100% corn on the mash bills.
Right.
So a buttery note, it can pair pretty well using corn, but at the same time, if you have corn and you got way too much butter in there, it's going to get a little funky. Sometimes it could even come off as kind of like a weird milk kind of vibe to it, like a corn.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh, on a side note, I've got something for you guys to try.
Oh, all right.
On that side of things. Okay, so you don't necessarily think that beer is the boogeyman like a lot of brewers would say, like you don't think diacetyl is just full-on boogeyman like a lot of beer brewers would say. There's a place for it, but a balance.
There can be a place for it depending on your blend, your cooperage, how you're going to run stuff off the still. I mean, all those things combined are going to really go into how much of that you're pulling across. Because again, with something like diacetyl that's technically a fault, anytime you have too much of it, that's when there's an issue. If you have it the right amount, that can be a small little nuance additive. It can be really nice. But
of brewers just rolled over in their graves.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, but
I mean,
it does have a nice mouthfeel. I can't really taste diacetyl, so it never offends me unless I'm looking for a really crisp, clean beer, and then you get that weird oily finish in your mouth. And whiskey, I generally like that. Yeah. But I can see how it could go too far.
And on the fermentation side, I mean, you don't have to necessarily be super afraid of, especially like fusels and some of those things that winemakers and brewers are going to be like, oh God, keep that away from the beer. That's not necessarily a bad thing when it comes for something for distillation.
Right. So letting the yeast stress a little bit is going to throw fusels, which we don't want in our final whiskey.
Right.
But we've got the ability to deal to that.
Exactly.
It will create some interesting esters and flavors which you can benefit from later down the track.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So we'll actually do a fairly hot fermentation.
Okay.
We'll let ours get up in 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty hot. But we are looking for that production of precursors for esters when we're doing that.
Right.